Hi everyone, this is Goggin from Infinite Combo, and for our Deckheads video this time, I'm going to be doing a Commander Spotlight on one of my favorite decks that I've built, being the Sliver Deck. So, the Sliver Deck, I've honestly had built since I was about 15, so I want to say 13 years, and it's gone through a series of different changes since there's been more slivers and what have you, and also it being a commander deck. So this is actually a deck of sentimental value to me, and also financial value in some aspects. So without further ado, I'm gonna go through and show you what I got in here. So the first thing that I put into this deck, put a lot of money into it too, was the land base. I run one of every dual land, one of every fetch land, one of every shock land, and then a couple of little add-on lands that I'll show you. As you can see, Underground Sea, Plateau, Savannah, Volcanic, Tropical, all the good stuff, all from Revised. The Tropical Island and the Volcanic Island I actually already had at the get-go and got them back when they were like $20 a pop. The rest of the dual lands were a little bit more work-inducive. So let's see, we've got Scrubland, Bayou, Tundra, Taiga, and a Badlands. Some of the fetches, I've got one of every fetch, as you can see, and the Windswept Heath is a foil, which I take a lot of pride in. Foothills, Verdant Catacombs, Scalding Tarn, Misty Rainforest, Marsh Flats, Dude. Arid Mesa, Flooded Strand, and then we move on to the Shocklands. So, the other lands that I have incorporated into this deck was obviously Cavern of Souls. What would my deck be without something like this? I mean, when Root Sliver's not around. Command Tower, that's pretty self-explanatory. Reliquary Tower, sometimes I do get a little sliver crazy and pull out a crap ton of slivers out of my deck. And I need an easy way to keep a big hand. Volrath Stronghold to pick up any back from the dead if any kind of unexpected spot removal happens. Vesuva because, well, look, it's a Vesuva. And a Mutavault, so that way I have a changeling creature essentially gets to reap in on all the sliver benefits. So, now that I've gotten the lands out of the way, it's time to go with the rest of the deck. Which, obviously, we'll start with my commander, Sliver Overlord. I've seen other decks built that use Sliver Queen or Sliver Legion, but personally, in my opinion, the ability to fetch the slivers is a lot more important to me than a coat of arms or a token generator. As you can see, I also have the Queen, the Sliver Legion, and one of my other favorite cards that I've picked up for this was a Russian Sliver Hive Lord, which I take a lot of pride in. And now we'll go with the rest of the stuff that makes this deck possible. Never mind the generals of the deck, if you will. So right now, I've got Heart, Horn, Gale Rider, all of the slivers that just provide some of those basic special abilities like haste, trample, flying, reach, flash, which has caused some hilarious game changes. Sentinel Sliver. And usually when I have this down, it's the end of the game when I play a Shifting Sliver. I mean, unless, of course, you know, John's a jerk. So for the other mana fixing in the deck, never mind the land base here. I've got Chromatic Lantern. I have both of the slivers that basically turn my slivers into slivers of paradise. Which when Gemhide Sliver came out, that was my cue to pull the deck back out of the closet again and build it to even greater proportions. Dark Steel Ingot, Soul Ring, Gilded Lotus, Prophet of Krufix, Mirari's Wake, and that really covers the mana base of the Sliver deck. So now I'm going to move into some of the beat sticks in the deck. These are, without Sliver Legion, what makes these guys even bigger and more hellish to deal with. So obviously there's Blade Sliver. What would a Sliver deck be without Muscle Sliver? Or Sinew. A Predatory Sliver as well. Might going to +2. Megantic for +3. And a Taurian Mauler, because this is probably one of the funniest cards to have in a melee game. Nothing worse than putting like 4 or 5 +1/+1 counters on this guy before your next turn. And also, it being Changeling, it's a Sliver, so now it's probably one of the more scary forces in the deck. And Magma Sliver, one of my favorites to send a Sliver in for the kill. And I've never had a chance to use Bone Scythe Sliver all that much, but I do keep him in the deck for the fact that he can do Double Strike. And also, Door of Destinies, I've heard some good things about it. I really haven't had a chance to use it in the deck, but hopefully that changes soon. And we've got Shapesharer here, so that way I can copy either one of my creatures or one of my opponents if they've got something really cool on the board. An Amoeba Changeling I actually fell in love with when I realized how well he works with Sliver Overlord, in the sense that I can turn something into a Sliver and then just take it. It's caused a lot of scoops, and I've lost many friends that way. So I've also got Mortify and Putrefy as just some basic spot removal. Harmonic Sliver to deal with Steph's Marchesa deck, or if Rob plays this deck and he goes up against my Sharum. Psionic Sliver is another one that I still haven't had a chance to effectively use yet, but I really want to. Mostly because he works well with the Death Touch Sliver, and also both Essence Sliver and Siphon Sliver. We've got Thorncaster, Necrotic, who is awesome at spot removal, and Venom Sliver to give him that Death Touch feeling. And Hibernation Sliver here, just to bounce any slivers back if I run into any problems too serious. And Constricting Sliver to just to really mess with people and exile all their good stuff. Diffusion Sliver, protecting them from spells and abilities to an extent. Telekinetic Sliver, or as I like to call him, Opposition Sliver, because there's nothing funnier than being able to make a bunch of tokens and to tap your opponent's stuff out. Got Root Sliver to protect my guys from counter spells. Ward Sliver to protect them from whatever color I don't like at the moment. Crystalline to give my guys Shroud. I usually have to find ways around my own Sliver to steal from other people. Pulmonic Sliver to bring my stuff back to the top of the deck. Eternal Witness to bring back anything that isn't a Sliver. So Elixir of Immortality. Oversold Cemetery. I apologize for the Japanese, but if you don't know what that does, if you have 4 or more creature cards in your graveyard during your upkeep, you can put one of them back into your hand. Totally recommend it for anyone running black. Living Death, I don't need to explain that. Got Patriarch's Bidding to do some mass resurrection. along with Second Sunrise and Darkheart Sliver to gain me some life, which also works well with the fact that aside from being able to sack and gain 3 life each, if I have both of these guys out and I combine them with Psionic Sliver, I essentially deal 2 damage to a target, deals 3 damage to itself, I gain 10 life. Now we're on to Allurin, which I really haven't had a chance to effectively use. I can't wait to do it, though. Cryptic Gateway has actually been a card that's been in the deck since I was 15, and it's actually a lot more amazing than people give it credit for. Got Distant Melody for card draw, along with Fecundity. Got Liliana Vest to be a Planeswalker Demonic Tutor, along with the actual Demonic Tutor. Worldly Tutor, just to search for that, one random Sliver if I don't have this guy or Sliver Overlord out. Homing Sliver allows me to do Sliver cycling. And lastly, of course, Sensei's Divining Top. So, all in all, this is probably one of my favorite decks I've ever built. Mostly just because it's the longest running deck I've ever owned. And it also makes Fathead really, really mad. So, yeah, that really covers it. This is the Sliver deck. I really would like to hear from people on Sliver decks that they have built. I'm a big fan of comparing notes. So if you have any questions, feedback, or support, be sure to like, subscribe, tell your friends, and leave a comment down below. So that's it. This is Goggin from Infinite Combo, and from me to all of you, stay infinite.